The Little Prince is a novella by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, published in 1943. It is a story of a young prince who leaves his home planet and travels to different worlds, including Earth, where he meets various characters and learns valuable lessons. It is a book that appeals to both children and adults, as it explores the themes of love, friendship, loneliness, and loss. It is also a book that reflects the author's own experiences and views, as he was a pilot, a writer, and a humanist. It is a book that invites the reader to look beyond the surface and to discover the hidden meanings and truths of life. The book begins with the narrator, a pilot who crashes his plane in the Sahara Desert. He is trying to fix his plane when he meets the little prince, a boy who asks him to draw a sheep. The narrator is surprised by the prince's request, and he tries to please him by drawing different pictures. The prince is not satisfied with any of them until the narrator draws a box and says that the sheep is inside. The prince is happy with this drawing, and he starts to tell the narrator his story. The prince comes from a small planet called asteroid B612, where he lives alone with a rose. The rose is very beautiful and charming, but also very vain and demanding. The prince loves the rose, but he also feels bored and unhappy on his planet. He decides to leave his planet and to explore other worlds. He visits 6 planets, each inhabited by a single person, who represents a different aspect of human nature and society. The first planet is inhabited by a king, who claims to rule over everything, but who has no subjects. He represents the absurdity and futility of power and authority. The second planet is inhabited by a vain man, who wants to be admired and applauded by everyone, but who has no one to admire or applaud him. He represents the vanity and emptiness of pride and ego. The third planet is inhabited by a drunkard, who drinks to forget that he is ashamed of drinking. He represents the vicious cycle and the despair of addiction and escapism. The fourth planet is inhabited by a businessman, who is busy counting and owning the stars, but who does not appreciate or enjoy them. He represents the greed and meaninglessness of materialism and capitalism. The fifth planet is inhabited by a lamplighter, who follows a senseless order of lighting and extinguishing his lamp, without any rest or purpose. He represents the absurdity and monotony of routine and conformity. The sixth planet is inhabited by a geographer, who records the information given by explorers, but who never explores anything himself. He represents the lack of curiosity and experience of knowledge and science. The prince is disappointed and disillusioned by these people, who are all grown-ups, but who have lost their childlike wonder and wisdom. He then arrives on Earth, where he hopes to find some true friends and some true answers. He lands in the desert, where he meets a snake, who tells him that he has the power to send him back to his planet by biting him. The prince is intrigued by the snake, but he does not trust him. The prince then meets a flower, who tells him that there are millions of roses on Earth just like his rose. The prince is saddened by this, as he thinks that his rose is not unique or special anymore. The prince then meets a fox, who teaches him the most important lesson of the book. The fox tells him that he is a wild and free animal, but that he wants to be tamed by the prince. He tells him that to tame means to create bonds, to establish ties, to make someone or something special and unique. He tells him that his rose is special and unique because he has tamed her and because he has spent time and care on her. He tells him that he will be special and unique to the fox if he tames him, and that he will see the world differently, with more beauty and meaning. He tells him that the essential is invisible to the eye, and that one can only see well with the heart. The prince agrees to tame the fox, and they become friends. The fox also tells the prince that he will be sad when he leaves, but that he will also be happy, because he will have a new and precious memory. He tells him that he will give him a secret as a gift before he leaves. The secret is, it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. The prince then meets the narrator, and they become friends as well. The prince helps the narrator to fix his plane, and the narrator helps the prince to find a well in the desert. They also share their stories and their feelings, and they learn from each other. The prince then decides to go back to his planet, and he asks the snake to bite him. He tells the narrator that he will not die, but that he will return to his star, where he will be happy with his rose. He tells the narrator that he will also be happy, because he will have a new and precious memory. He tells the narrator that he will always be able to see him if he looks at the stars, and that he will always be able to hear him if he listens to his heart. He tells the narrator that he will always be his friend, and that he will always love him. The prince then says goodbye to the narrator, and he lets the snake bite him. He falls gently on the sand, and he disappears. The narrator is sad, but he is also happy, because he has met the little prince, and because he has learned his secret. He finishes his story by asking the reader to look at the stars, and to think of the little prince, and to let him know if they ever see him again. The Little Prince is a book that tells us what the author wanted to say with his work, the characteristics of dystopia, and the relevance of the book today. The author wanted to say that the world is full of wonders and mysteries, but that we often forget or ignore them, because we are too busy or too distracted by the things that do not matter. He wanted to say that we need to keep our childlike spirit and our imagination alive, and that we need to appreciate and enjoy the simple and the essential things in life, such as love, friendship, nature, and beauty. He wanted to say that we need to create bonds and ties with others, and that we need to respect and care for them, and that we need to be loyal and faithful to them. He wanted to say that we need to listen to our heart, and to follow our dreams, and to find our own meaning and purpose in life. The book also shows the characteristics of dystopia, a genre of fiction that portrays a negative and oppressive society. The book shows how dystopia can result from the abuse of power, the loss of democracy, the corruption of ideals, and the betrayal of humanity. It shows how dystopia can affect the human psyche, the human spirit, and the human condition. It shows how dystopia can be resisted and overcome by courage and wisdom, by love and friendship, by faith and hope. The book is still relevant today, as it warns us of the possible threats and challenges that we face in the modern world. It reminds us to be vigilant and critical of the political and social events that shape our reality. It urges us to be aware and responsible of the information that we consume and produce. It encourages us to be creative and independent in our thinking and acting. It inspires us to be compassionate and courageous in our loving and living. The Little Prince is a masterpiece of literature that challenges and enlightens us. It is a book that makes us think and feel, that makes us question and act, that makes us hope and resist. It is a book that makes us human. This is the end of the video. I hope you liked it. See you in the next video. Goodbye.